Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance watching the stars through the main screen. The ship moved quietly through space toward Earth after a 3-month patrol of the outer colonies. Jake had been a captain for 8 years, and had seen many strange things in space, but nothing had prepared him for what happened next. The communication officer turned around with a confused look on his face. Lieutenant Danny Walsh had been working communications for 5 years, and Jake had never seen him look so puzzled. Danny pressed a few buttons on his console and looked at Jake with wide eyes. "Captain, we are getting a message, but it is not from Earth Command," Danny said slowly. "The signal is coming from somewhere very far away, and it is using languages I have never heard before." Jake walked over to Danny's station and looked at the readings. The signal was incredibly strong considering how far it had traveled. The computer was trying to translate the message but was having trouble with most of the words. Only small parts were coming through in English. "What can you make out?" Jake asked as he studied the screen. Danny adjusted the translation software and read the partial message. Something about the Galactic Council and humanity being summoned for an emergency hearing. There are words here about aggressive expansion and violations of some kind of protocol. Jake felt his stomach drop. Everyone in the human military knew that other alien species existed in the galaxy, but contact had been limited to brief encounters and trade agreements. No human had ever been called before anything called a Galactic Council. "Send a priority message to Earth Command immediately," Jake ordered. "Tell them we have received what appears to be an official summons from an alien government, calling itself the Galactic Council." While Danny worked on the message, Jake called his senior staff to the bridge. Dr. Lisa Hamilton arrived first. She was the ship's science officer and also served as an expert on alien cultures. Lisa had studied every piece of information humanity had gathered about other species over the past 50 years. "Captain, what is the situation?" Lisa asked as she looked at the translation attempt on the main screen. Jake explained about the message, and Lisa's expression grew more serious with each detail. She had always warned that humanity's rapid expansion into new star systems might attract unwanted attention from older alien civilizations. "This is what I was afraid would happen," Lisa said quietly. "We have been moving into space so quickly that we never stopped to ask permission from whoever was already out there." Ambassador Ryan Carter arrived next. Ryan was not officially part of the ship's crew, but was traveling back to Earth after setting up diplomatic relations with a mining colony. He was one of Earth's most experienced diplomats when it came to dealing with alien species. Ryan read the partial translation and shook his head. "A summons from a Galactic Council sounds very official and very serious," he said. "If there really is some kind of government that rules over multiple alien species, then we may have made some big mistakes." The complete translated message arrived an hour later. The translation software had finally figured out most of the alien languages, and the full text was much more detailed and much more frightening than anyone had expected. The message began with formal greetings from something called the Galactic Council, which claimed to represent 47 different alien species across thousands of star systems. The council said they had been watching humanity's expansion into space and were concerned about several violations of what they called the Primitive Species Containment Protocols. According to the message, humanity had established colonies in 17 star systems without proper authorization from the Council. Humans had also developed military technologies that exceeded the permitted levels for what the Council classified as a Level 2 civilization. Most seriously, the message accused humanity of refusing to submit to the standard guidance protocols that all young species were required to follow. The Council was demanding that representatives from Earth appear before them within 30 days to answer these charges. The hearing would take place at their main station, which orbited a planet called Axiom Prime. If humanity failed to appear, or if the Council found them guilty of the charges, then severe restrictions would be placed on human activities in space. Jake read the message 3 times before he fully understood what it meant. Some alien government that humanity had never heard of was claiming the right to control where humans could go and what technologies they could develop. Even worse, they were threatening punishment if humans did not obey their rules. "How is this possible?" Jake asked Lisa. "How can there be a government of 47 alien species that we know nothing about?" Lisa studied the message carefully before answering. "We have always assumed that the alien species we encountered were independent," she said. "We never considered that there might be some larger organization that coordinates between different species." Ryan was already thinking about the diplomatic implications. If this council really does represent dozens of alien species, then they have far more power than Earth has, he said. "We need to take this summons very seriously." Jake made the decision quickly. "Set course for Earth immediately," he ordered. "Maximum speed." The trip back to Earth took 2 weeks, and during that time Jake's crew studied everything they could find about the alien species mentioned in the Council's message. Most of the names were completely unknown, but a few matched species that human traders had encountered in distant star systems. When the Defiance arrived at Earth, the planet's government was in chaos. The Council's message had been received by every human colony and military base simultaneously. Political leaders were arguing about how to respond while military commanders were preparing for the possibility of an alien attack. Admiral Beth Rodriguez called Jake to Earth Command headquarters as soon as his ship docked. Beth had been in charge of Earth's space defense forces for 15 years and was known for her calm thinking during crisis situations. "Jake, I am assigning you to lead the delegation to this Galactic Council," Beth said, without any preliminary discussion. "Dr. Hamilton will serve as our cultural expert and Ambassador Carter will handle the diplomatic aspects." Jake was surprised by the quick decision. "Admiral, why me?" he asked. Beth smiled grimly. "Because you found their message first, and because you have more experience dealing with unknown situations in space than any other captain in the fleet," she said. "Also because if this goes badly, we need someone who can think quickly and fight if necessary." The delegation spent 1 week preparing for the journey to Axiom Prime. They studied every piece of information Earth had about alien technology and culture. They also loaded the Defiance with Earth's most advanced defensive systems in case the meeting was some kind of trap. Dr. Hamilton discovered some disturbing information during her research. Several of the alien species mentioned in the Council's message had been involved in conflicts with human colonies, but those conflicts had been kept secret from the general public. It appeared that tensions between humans and other species had been building for years, without most people knowing about. Ambassador Carter worked with Earth's government to develop a strategy for the hearing. The plan was to appear cooperative while defending humanity's right to expand into space. However, everyone involved knew that if the Council really did represent dozens of advanced alien species, then Earth's bargaining position was very weak. Jake felt the weight of responsibility as the Defiance left Earth's orbit heading toward Axiom Prime. The future of humanity's presence in space might depend on what happened at this meeting with aliens who considered themselves the rulers of the galaxy. The journey to Axiom Prime took 3 weeks through hyperspace routes that Jake had never seen before. The Galactic Council had provided navigation data that led the Defiance through parts of the galaxy where no human ship had ever traveled. Along the way, they passed massive alien structures and space stations that dwarfed anything humans had ever built. Dr. Lisa Hamilton spent most of the journey studying the alien architecture they encountered. She noticed that every structure followed similar design principles, suggesting that the Galactic Council had been coordinating construction projects across multiple species for a very long time. The level of organization required for such coordination was far beyond anything humanity had achieved. Ambassador Ryan Carter used the travel time to prepare his arguments for the hearing. He knew that the Council would expect humans to apologize for their expansion into space and agree to follow alien rules. However, Ryan believed that humanity had done nothing wrong by establishing colonies in empty star systems and developing new technologies. When the Defiance finally arrived at Axiom Prime, Jake was amazed by what he saw. The Council's space station was larger than most moons and was clearly designed to accommodate dozens of different alien species. Ships of every imaginable design were docked at hundreds of different ports around the station's massive structure. The station's traffic control system guided the Defiance to a docking port specifically designed for human ships. Jake realized that the Council had been planning for this meeting much longer than the 30 days mentioned in their message. They had studied human technology carefully enough to build appropriate docking facilities. A delegation of alien officials met the humans as they left their ship. The leader was a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms who introduced himself as Counselor Vextai of the Hegemony. Vextai spoke perfect English, but his accent suggested that he had learned the language recently specifically for this meeting. "Welcome to Axiom Prime," Vextai said formally. "The Galactic Council appreciates your prompt response to our summons. You will be provided with quarters appropriate for your species while you prepare for tomorrow's hearing." Jake noticed that Vextai had called it a summons rather than an invitation. The alien's tone made it clear that the Council considered this a legal proceeding rather than a diplomatic negotiation. The humans were being treated more like defendants than like representatives of an independent government. The quarters provided for the human delegation were comfortable, but Jake could see that they were designed to contain rather than welcome their occupants. There was only one entrance, and the walls appeared to be made of some kind of advanced material that would be difficult to break through. The humans were being kept under a form of polite house arrest. Dr. Hamilton spent the evening analyzing recordings of their arrival at the station. She had noticed that the alien species they encountered showed a clear hierarchy, with some species obviously serving others. The Council appeared to be dominated by a few powerful species, while many others were relegated to support roles. The next morning, Vextai escorted the humans to the Council chamber, which was unlike anything they had ever seen. The room was shaped like a massive crystal with transparent walls that provided a view of space in all directions. Representatives from dozens of alien species sat at stations arranged in complex geometric patterns throughout the chamber. Jake counted 47 different types of aliens, exactly as the Council's message had claimed. Some species looked similar to humans, while others were so alien that he could barely understand how they functioned. All of them were watching the human delegation with expressions that ranged from curiosity to obvious hostility. At the center of the chamber sat an ancient alien that Vextai introduced as Hegemon Kralthex, the leader of the Galactic Council. Kralthex belonged to a species called the Zephyrians and appeared to be incredibly old even by alien standards. His presence dominated the chamber, and every other alien showed him obvious respect. "The emergency session of the Galactic Council will now begin," Kralthex announced in a voice that echoed throughout the chamber. "We are here to address the violations committed by the species known as humanity." Counselor Vextai rose from his seat and began reading the formal charges against humanity. His voice carried clearly throughout the chamber as he listed each accusation in detail. The charges were far more serious than the humans had expected based on the original message. The first charge involved unauthorized colonization. According to the Council, humanity had established permanent settlements in 17 star systems that were classified as protected or restricted space. The Council claimed that all of these systems should have remained uninhabited until the appropriate alien species were ready to expand into them. The second charge involved technological violations. The Council accused humans of developing military spacecraft that exceeded the permitted capabilities for a Level 2 civilization. Specifically, human ships were too fast, too heavily armed, and too well defended for a species that had only achieved faster than light travel 50 years earlier. The third and most serious charge involved refusal to submit to Council authority. According to galactic law, all species that achieved interstellar travel were required to register with the Council and accept guidance from more advanced civilizations. Humanity had never registered and had ignored all previous attempts by the Council to make contact. After Vextai finished reading the charges, Hegemon Kralthex called for testimony from the alien species that had filed complaints against humanity. Jake watched in growing anger as one alien after another stood up to accuse humans of crimes they had never known they were committing. The representative from the Crystalline Collective complained that human mining operations in asteroid fields had disrupted sacred geometric patterns that his species had spent centuries creating. He claimed that humans had destroyed artwork that was thousands of years old without even knowing what they were destroying. The speaker for the Aquatic Federation accused humans of contaminating water worlds through their terraforming efforts. She said that human colonies had introduced foreign bacteria into pristine ocean ecosystems, causing irreversible damage to native life forms that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. A delegate from something called the Peaceful Union claimed that Human trade ships had violated the borders of neutral space and had sold advanced weapons to species that were not supposed to have access to such technology. He argued that human merchants were destabilizing entire regions of the galaxy for profit. The most damaging testimony came from General Thokmar of the Vorthon Empire. Thokmar was a massive alien with thick armor plating and obvious military bearing. He stood before the council and accused humans of deliberate acts of war against his people. 3 times in the past year, human military vessels have attacked and destroyed Vorthon patrol fleets, Thokmar declared angrily. These were not accidents or misunderstandings. Human captains deliberately chose to fight rather than submit to proper inspection procedures. Thokmar activated a holographic display that showed recordings of space battles between human and Vorthon ships. Jake recognized 2 of the battles from intelligence reports he had received. In both cases, human colonies had been threatened by alien warships and had defended themselves when diplomatic contact failed. The humans claimed these were defensive actions, Thokmar continued. But they took place in space that has belonged to the Vorthon Empire for over 2,000 years. The humans were the invaders, and they responded to lawful challenges with violence. Admiral Beth Rodriguez appeared on the chamber's communication system to observe the proceedings from Earth. Jake could see the concern on her face as she listened to the accusations against humanity. The charges were far more serious than Earth's government had expected, and the evidence presented by the aliens was convincing. After 6 hours of testimony from various alien species, Hegemon Kralthex called for a recess before the human delegation would be allowed to present their defense. Jake could see that many of the alien representatives had already made up their minds about humanity's guilt. During the recess, Dr. Hamilton analyzed the accusations and made a disturbing discovery. Many of the incidents described by the aliens had never been reported to Earth's government. Human colonies and military units had been having confrontations with alien species for years, without the central government knowing about it. "We have been flying blind," Lisa told Jake and Ryan during their private meeting. "Our people have been expanding into space without knowing about the complex web of territorial claims and treaty obligations that apparently exist out here." Ryan studied the legal documents that the Council had provided. The primitive species containment protocols were thousands of pages long and covered every aspect of how young civilizations were supposed to behave. Humanity had violated dozens of specific rules without ever knowing the rules existed. "They have us," Ryan said grimly. "By their laws, we are clearly guilty of everything they have accused us of. The question now is whether we accept their authority to judge us, or whether we challenge the entire system." Jake looked out at the stars visible through the crystal walls of their quarters. Somewhere out there, human colonies were going about their daily lives unaware that their future was. When the council session resumed the next morning, Ambassador Ryan Carter rose from his seat with a calm confidence that surprised even his own delegation. Jake had expected Ryan to begin with apologies and attempts to explain away humanity's actions, but instead the diplomat did something that had never happened in the 12,000-year history of the Galactic Council. "Honored members of the Council," Ryan began in a clear voice that carried throughout the crystal chamber. "Before I address the specific charges against humanity, I must first question the legal foundation upon which this entire proceeding rests." A murmur of shock rippled through the assembled aliens. Hegemon Kralthex leaned forward in his ancient seat with obvious surprise. In all the millennia of council hearings, no species had ever challenged the council's authority to judge them. The charges against humanity assume that the Galactic Council has the right to control how and where human beings live and expand, Ryan continued. However, humanity never agreed to submit to council authority, and we were never informed that such authority existed until 30 days ago. Councillor Vextai stood up immediately. "The primitive species containment protocols apply to all species, regardless of whether they choose to acknowledge council authority," he declared. "Ignorance of galactic law is not a defense against violations of that law." Ryan smiled calmly. "Then perhaps the council can explain how laws created without human input or consent can be considered binding upon humanity," he said. "By what right does this council claim authority over species that had no voice in creating these laws?" Dr. Lisa Hamilton activated the holographic display system that the Council had provided for the human defense. Images began appearing throughout the chamber showing detailed star charts and archaeological data that the human delegation had prepared during their journey to Axiom Prime. While we appreciate the Council's concern about humanity's expansion into space, Lisa said as she began her presentation, we must correct several factual errors in the charges against us. Every star system that humanity has colonized was either completely uninhabited or contained only the archaeological remains of civilizations that died out thousands of years ago. The first series of images showed detailed surveys of all 17 star systems mentioned in the charges against humanity. Each survey proved that human colonists had found no living alien civilizations and had in fact taken great care to preserve any ancient ruins or artifacts they discovered. In the Kepler 442 system, which the Council claims belongs to the crystalline, collective our archaeologists found geometric patterns that were already broken and incomplete when we arrived. Lisa continued, rather than destroying alien artwork, we have actually restored and preserved structures that were crumbling due to age and cosmic radiation. Lisa activated recordings made by Professor Kevin Brooks, the leader of humanity's xenoarchaeology program. The recordings showed human scientists carefully documenting and protecting alien ruins while establishing their colonies nearby, rather than on top of the ancient sites. Furthermore, our analysis of these ruins suggests that they are far older than the crystalline collective claims, Lisa said. Carbon dating and stellar radiation analysis indicates that these structures were built at least 15,000 years ago by a civilization that predates the current Galactic Council. Jake watched the alien representatives as Lisa continued her presentation. Many of them were clearly disturbed by the evidence she was presenting. Some species were having heated discussions among themselves in languages that the translation system could not interpret. The most dramatic moment came when Lisa presented the data that Professor Brooks had discovered in the ruins of the extinct civilization in the Tau Ceti system. Hidden chambers beneath the surface contained archives of information that painted a very different picture of galactic history than what the Council taught. According to these archives, the galaxy has hosted at least 4 different galactic civilizations over the past 50,000 years, Lisa announced. Each one reached incredible heights of technological advancement before disappearing completely. The current Galactic Council is actually the 4th such organization, not the first. Hegemon Kralthex stood up suddenly, his ancient features showing obvious anger. These claims are preposterous, he declared. The archives of Axiom Prime contain complete records of galactic history going back 20,000 years. There is no evidence of any previous galactic civilizations. Ryan stepped forward with a datapad in his hand. Then perhaps the hegemon can explain why human deep space exploration vessels have discovered installations that clearly predate the current council by millennia, he said calmly. The holographic display changed to show images transmitted by Captain Sandra Lee of the UES Horizon. Her ship had discovered a massive alien construct drifting in the void between star systems. The structure was clearly artificial, but was built using technologies that no current galactic species possessed. We call it the Nexus Array, Ryan continued. Our scientists estimate that it is at least 25,000 years old. More importantly, it appears to be part of a galaxy-wide communication network that has been dormant for millennia. Commander Alex Turner appeared on the communication system from his position aboard the research vessel UES Discovery. Alex had been leading the team studying the Nexus Array, and his findings had revolutionized human understanding of galactic history. The Nexus Array contains data storage systems that dwarf anything the current galactic civilizations have built, Alex reported. We have only been able to access a tiny fraction of the information stored within it, but what we have found suggests that the galaxy once supported billions of intelligent species living in harmony across millions of star systems. Jake could see that the alien representatives were becoming increasingly agitated. Several species were demanding that Hegemon Kralthex end the human presentation immediately. However, the ancient Zephyrian leader seemed frozen by what he was hearing. Dr. Hamilton activated another series of displays showing archaeological evidence from dozens of different star systems. The pattern is consistent across all of human explored space, she said. We find ruins of ancient civilizations that are far more advanced than anything that exists today. These civilizations clearly had contact with each other across vast distances, suggesting a level of galactic cooperation that the current council has never achieved. Ryan moved to the center of the chamber, facing Hegemon Kralthex directly. We believe that the current Galactic Council is not preserving galactic civilization, but is actually preventing it from reaching its full potential, he said boldly. The primitive species containment protocols are not protecting young species, but are keeping them from discovering the true history of the galaxy. The chamber erupted in chaos as aliens throughout the room began shouting in dozens of different languages. General Thakmar of the Vorthan Empire was demanding immediate military action against humanity. The representative of the Crystalline Collective was accusing humans of manufacturing false evidence. Several smaller species were calling for emergency votes to expel humanity from the galaxy entirely. Through the noise, Jake heard something that chilled him to the bone. A group of aliens near the back of the chamber were speaking in what sounded like an ancient form of the language used in the Nexus Array. They understood what the humans had discovered, and they were terrified. Hegemon Kralthex finally restored order by activating a sound-dampening field that silenced the entire chamber, his ancient eyes fixed on Ryan with an expression that mixed fear, anger, and something that might have been respect. These accusations against the Council are serious beyond measure, Kralthex said slowly. If humanity has truly discovered evidence of previous galactic civilizations, then this matter extends far beyond simple territorial violations. Dr. Hamilton stepped forward with one final piece of evidence. We have also made contact with other species that exist outside Council authority, she announced. The Wanderer Fleet, the Remnant Coalition, and the Shadow Traders have all shared technologies and historical records with us. They confirm that the galaxy once hosted civilizations far more advanced than what exists today. Ryan delivered his final argument with quiet conviction. Humanity does not seek to destroy the Galactic Council or to conquer other species, he said. We seek only the truth about our galaxy's past and the freedom to explore and expand without artificial restrictions. If the Council can prove that their authority is legitimate and that their version of galactic history is accurate, then humanity will withdraw from all disputed territories and submit to your guidance. Jake felt the weight of the moment as Ryan paused dramatically before delivering humanity's ultimatum. However, if the Council refuses to allow open examination of their historical archives and continues to suppress evidence of the galaxy's true past, then humanity will consider itself no longer bound by Council authority, Ryan declared. We will proceed with unrestricted colonization and will form alliances with any species that chooses freedom over control. The silence that followed was absolute. For the first time in 12,000 years, a species had not only challenged the Galactic Council's authority, but had backed up that challenge with evidence that the Council's entire foundation might be built on lies and suppression of historical truth. The recess lasted for 6 hours while the Galactic Council held emergency closed sessions to discuss humanity's challenge. Jake and his delegation remained in their quarters, but they could see through the crystal walls that alien ships were arriving at Axiom Prime constantly. Word of the human presentation had spread throughout the galaxy, and species that were not even Council members were sending representatives to witness what happened next. Dr. Lisa Hamilton used the time to analyze the reactions of different alien species during her presentation. She had noticed that while most Council members appeared shocked by the evidence of ancient civilizations, a few species had shown no surprise at all. These aliens already knew about the galaxy's hidden history and had been keeping that knowledge. Secret Ambassador Ryan Carter spent the recess preparing for what he knew would be the most important diplomatic moment in human history. The Council would either accept humanity's challenge and allow examination of their archives, or they would reject it and face the consequences of humanity's withdrawal from all galactic treaties and protocols. When the session resumed, Jake immediately noticed that the composition of the Council chamber had changed. Several new alien species were present, including some that looked far more advanced than the original 47 members. These newcomers sat in a separate section and observed the proceedings without participating in the discussions. Hegemon Kralthex appeared older and more tired than he had before the recess. The ancient Zephyrian leader had clearly been forced to confront uncomfortable truths about the organization he had led for thousands of years. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that had not been there earlier. The Galactic Council has considered humanity's challenge to our authority, Kralthex began slowly. While we reject the implication that the Council has deliberately suppressed historical information, we acknowledge that your archaeological discoveries raise important questions about galactic history. Jake felt a mixture of hope and disappointment. The Council was not completely dismissing humanity's evidence, but they were also not admitting to any wrongdoing. This middle ground response suggested that the aliens were trying to find a way to maintain their authority while addressing human concerns. However, Kralthex continued, the Council cannot ignore humanity's refusal to accept established galactic law. Your species has expanded into space without regard for the territorial claims of other civilizations and has developed military capabilities that threaten the balance of power that has maintained galactic peace for millennia. Counselor Vextai stood up and activated a holographic display showing the current military positions of various species throughout the galaxy. The display made it clear that the Galactic Council controlled the vast majority of inhabited star systems and possessed overwhelming military superiority over any individual species, including humanity. The primitive species containment protocols exist to prevent young civilizations from destabilizing regions of space that have been peaceful for thousands of years, Vextai declared. Humanity's rapid expansion and military development represents exactly the kind of threat that these protocols were designed to prevent. Ryan rose from his seat with a calm determination that impressed Jake. The ambassador had spent his career dealing with difficult negotiations, but nothing had prepared him for a confrontation with an organization that claimed authority over the entire galaxy. The Council speaks of preventing destabilization, Ryan said clearly, but perhaps the greatest source of instability in the galaxy is the suppression of truth about our shared history. How can there be genuine peace when it is built upon lies and the forced ignorance of entire civilizations? Ryan activated the human delegation's holographic system and displayed images from the Nexus array that Commander Alex Turner had transmitted just hours earlier. The ancient alien construct had become more active as human technicians learned to interface with its systems, and new information was being discovered constantly. The Nexus array has revealed that the galaxy once supported over 10,000 intelligent species living in voluntary cooperation across millions of star systems, Ryan announced. This ancient civilization achieved levels of technological advancement that make current galactic technology look primitive by comparison. The new images showed vast cities that spanned entire continents constructed from materials that human science could barely analyze. Starships the size of small moons moved between solar systems using propulsion methods that violated known laws of physics. Most importantly, the record showed that this advanced civilization had been completely voluntary with no central authority controlling member species. Most significantly, Ryan continued, the records indicate that this ancient civilization ended, not through war or conquest, but through a deliberate decision to transcend physical existence entirely. They did not die out. They evolved beyond the need for material form. Jake could see that this revelation was having a profound impact on some of the alien representatives. Several species were having urgent discussions among themselves, while others sat in stunned silence. The implications of Ryan's statement were staggering. Dr. Hamilton stepped forward with additional evidence. Our analysis of the ruins found throughout human space confirms this pattern, she said. Ancient civilizations did not collapse. They simply left, leaving behind only empty cities and monuments. The current galactic species are not the inheritors of these civilizations. They are new life that arose after the ancients departed. General Thokmar of the Vorthan Empire stood up angrily. Even if these claims are true, they do not give humanity the right to ignore galactic law, he declared. The current civilizations have built a stable, peaceful galaxy through careful cooperation and mutual respect. Human expansion threatens to destroy everything we have achieved. Ryan smiled at the Vorthan general's outburst. General Thokmar speaks of stability and peace, but the evidence suggests that the current galactic civilization is stagnating rather than advancing, he said. In 12,000 years of council rule, No member species has achieved technological advancement comparable to what the ancients accomplished. Ryan activated another display showing technological development curves for various galactic species over the past 10,000 years. The data was devastating. While individual species had made minor improvements in their technology, the overall level of galactic civilization had remained essentially static for millennia. The primitive species. Containment protocols do not just restrict young civilizations, they restrict all civilizations. Ryan continued. By preventing any species from achieving rapid advancement, the Council has created a galaxy-wide system of technological stagnation. Jake watched as the implications of Ryan's argument sank in throughout the chamber. The Galactic Council had not just been controlling humanity. They had been controlling the development of all galactic civilizations for thousands of years. The stable, peaceful galaxy that they claimed to protect was actually a prison that prevented any species from reaching its full potential. Hegemon Kralthex stood up slowly, his ancient features showing a mixture of anger and something that might have been fear. The Council will not tolerate accusations that our policies have harmed galactic civilization, he declared. The protocols exist to prevent the kind of catastrophic conflicts that destroyed previous galactic civilizations. Ryan had been waiting for this admission. So the Council does acknowledge that previous galactic civilizations existed, he said quietly. And you admit that these civilizations were destroyed by conflicts rather than voluntary transcendence, as the Nexus Array records indicate. The chamber fell silent as the aliens realized that their leader had inadvertently confirmed parts of humanity's claims about hidden galactic history. Kralthex had revealed that the Council knew far more about ancient civilizations than they had previously admitted. Dr. Hamilton seized the moment to present her most damaging evidence. The Council's own archives must contain records of these previous civilizations, she said. We demand that these archives be opened for independent examination by representatives of all galactic species, not just Council members. Ryan delivered humanity's final ultimatum with quiet authority. Humanity withdraws its acceptance of Galactic Council authority, effective immediately, he announced. We will establish formal diplomatic relations with any species that chooses to deal with us as equals rather than as subjects. Jake felt the atmosphere in the chamber change as Ryan continued. We will also share all information from the Nexus Array and other ancient sites with any species that requests it, Ryan said. The truth about galactic history belongs to all civilizations, not just to a select few who claim the right to control that information. The response from the assembled aliens was immediate and chaotic. Some species were demanding military action against humanity, while others were calling for the Council archives to be opened as the humans had requested. Several of the newer species that had arrived during the recess were openly supporting humanity's position. Most significantly, Jake noticed that some of the original Council members were looking at each other with expressions of suspicion and distrust. Ryan's revelations about suppressed history and technological stagnation had planted seeds of doubt about the Council's leadership that would be difficult to. The chaos in the Council chamber continued for over an hour, as alien species argued among themselves about how to respond to humanity's challenge. Some were demanding immediate military action, while others were calling for investigation of the human claims about suppressed galactic history. Jake could see that the unity of the Galactic Council was fracturing before his eyes. Hegemon Kralthex finally restored order by threatening to eject any species that could not control their representatives. The ancient Zephyrian leader was clearly struggling to maintain authority over a situation that had spiraled far beyond anything the Council had previously experienced. The emergency session will continue, Kralthex announced, in a voice that carried barely controlled anger. However, before the Council makes any decisions regarding humanity's status, we demand proof of the extraordinary claims that have been made. Ambassador Ryan Carter exchanged glances with Dr. Lisa Hamilton and Captain Jake Morrison. They had hoped that the Council would demand proof, because humanity had prepared something that would change galactic civilization forever. Dr. Amanda Foster will provide the proof you require, Ryan said calmly as he activated the communication system. Dr. Foster appeared on the chamber's main display from her position aboard the research vessel UES Discovery. Amanda was humanity's leading expert on quantum physics and alien technology. She had spent the past month working with Commander Alex Turner to understand the systems of the Nexus Array. Honored members of the Council, Amanda began with obvious excitement in her voice. What you are about to see represents the greatest archaeological discovery in galactic history. The Nexus Array is not just a relic of an ancient civilization. It is a fully functional system that has been waiting for someone with the proper knowledge to reactivate it. Amanda held up a small device that looked like a crystalline computer interface. Human technicians have successfully created a portable connection to the Nexus Array's main systems, she announced. With this device, we can access the complete historical records of the ancient galactic civilization. Jake watched the alien representatives with fascination as Amanda prepared to activate the interface. Some species appeared genuinely curious about what would be revealed, while others seemed terrified of what they might learn. A few aliens were clearly trying to leave the chamber but were prevented by security protocols that Kralthex had activated. The Nexus Array contains over 50,000 years of complete galactic history. Amanda continued as she connected the interface device to the chamber's display systems. The records include detailed information about every intelligent species that has ever existed in our galaxy, including those that chose to transcend physical existence. Amanda activated the interface, and the entire council chamber was immediately flooded with holographic displays showing the true scope of ancient galactic civilization. The images were so detailed and comprehensive that they filled every available space in the crystal room, creating an immersive experience that made the aliens feel like they were traveling through history itself. The first displays showed the galaxy as it existed 50,000 years ago, when millions of intelligent species lived in voluntary cooperation across billions of star systems. The level of technological advancement was staggering, with entire solar systems converted into living spaces and starships that could travel between galaxies in minutes. Jake heard gasps of amazement from aliens throughout the chamber as they saw cities that spanned multiple planets connected by transportation systems that moved through higher dimensions. The ancient civilization had mastered technologies that current galactic science considered impossible, including the ability to manipulate time and space on cosmic scales. This is the first galactic civilization, Amanda explained as the displays showed the height of ancient achievement. They existed for over 20,000 years and included the ancestors of many current galactic species. The records show that they eventually chose to evolve beyond physical existence, not because of war or catastrophe, but because they had learned everything that material existence could teach them. The displays changed to show what happened after the first civilization transcended. New species evolved to fill the empty star systems and eventually formed the second galactic civilization. This cycle repeated itself 3 more times over the next 30,000 years, with each new civilization reaching similar heights before choosing transcendence. Most shocking of all, the records revealed that representatives of the transcended civilizations still existed in higher dimensions and occasionally provided guidance to younger species. The Nexus Array itself was a gift from these transcended beings, designed to help future civilizations learn from the past. The current Galactic Council represents the 5th attempt to organize galactic civilization, Amanda announced as the displays showed the formation of various galactic governments over the millennia. However, unlike previous civilizations, the current council has chosen to prevent transcendence rather than prepare for it. The holographic records showed how each previous galactic council had eventually encouraged member species to push the boundaries of technology and consciousness. The current council was unique in galactic history for its deliberate policy of limiting technological and spiritual advancement. Dr. Foster activated the most damaging section of the records, which showed the true history of the current Galactic Council's formation 12,000 years ago. The founding species had discovered ruins of the 4th civilization and had been so terrified by the implications of transcendence that they had created the primitive species containment protocols specifically to prevent any species from achieving similar advancement. The current council was founded on fear rather than wisdom, Amanda declared as the records showed secret meetings where ancient alien leaders decided to suppress knowledge of transcendence. The protocols were never designed to maintain peace, they were designed to prevent any species from following the path of the previous civilizations. Jake watched Hegemon Kralthex as the Zephyrian leader saw his civilization's deepest secrets revealed before the entire galaxy. The record showed that the Zephyrians had been the primary architects of the suppression policy and had convinced other species to join them by claiming that transcendence was actually a form of extinction. The most devastating revelation came when the Nexus Array records showed the true identity of humanity. The displays revealed genetic and cultural analysis, proving that humans were direct descendants of the Third Galactic Civilization's most advanced species. Humanity had not achieved rapid technological development despite being primitive. They had achieved it because they were remembering their true heritage. Humanity is not a young species learning to explore space, Amanda announced as the chamber filled with images of ancient human-like beings who had once ruled the galaxy. Humans are the children of the galaxy's former masters returning to reclaim their birthright. The silence that followed was absolute and profound. Every alien in the chamber sat frozen as the implications of Amanda's revelation sank in. The species they had dismissed as primitive youngsters were actually the descendants of the most advanced civilization in galactic history. Jake could see the exact moment when each alien representative understood what this meant. Humanity had not violated galactic law. They had been prevented from exercising their legitimate right to inherit the territories that their ancestors had once ruled. The Galactic Council had not been protecting the galaxy from human expansion. They had been trying to prevent humanity from discovering the truth about their own past. Dr. Foster delivered the final blow to the Council's authority. The Nexus Array records also reveal that humanity's awakening was prophesied by the transcended civilizations, she said quietly. The return of the third civilization's children was meant to signal the beginning of the galaxy's preparation for the next great transcendence. Hegemon Kralthex stood up slowly, his ancient features showing complete defeat. The leader who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years had been revealed as nothing more than a frightened guardian, trying to prevent the natural evolution of galactic civilization. The charges against humanity are withdrawn, Kralthex said in a voice barely above a whisper. The Galactic Council formally recognizes humanity's right to unrestricted expansion and technological development. But Jake could see that Kralthex was not finished. The ancient alien leader looked directly at Ambassador Carter with an expression that mixed fear, respect, and something that might have been relief. Furthermore, Kralthex continued, the Galactic Council invites humanity to assume leadership of galactic civilization as is their right by heritage and by wisdom. The age of fearful limitation must end if the galaxy is to prepare for its destiny among the transcended civilizations. The chamber remained silent as the full impact of Kralthex's words echoed throughout the crystal structure. The most powerful organization in galactic history had just voluntarily surrendered its authority to the species it had been trying to control. Ryan Carter stood up slowly and looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of 47 alien species. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of humanity's ancient heritage and the wisdom of their recent discoveries.